Welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. We have a lot of great information here. We're excited about our show from last night. We're still talking about it now, but we're glad you're watching the show. Thanks for pumping up Pittsburgh Sportsline on Facebook. 2528 we hit. Thank you to everybody liking us. We appreciate it. Thanks for also watching us on Verizon 32 everywhere in the Pittsburgh area. Comcast 7 only in Bethel Park. And you know YouTube's available 24/7. We just posted last night's show. Check that one out. Not right now, though. Try to watch this show. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Chip the Prophet Hayner. Smoking Jim Frazier. And Zach Brenner back from his assignment in Daytona Beach. And we always start the show off with what's on our mind. And we're going to do that right now. Zach Brenner, what's on your mind?
Well, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. What's on my mind is I was gone, folks, for 6 days. I don't know if any of you noticed this. I won't be appearing on the show last night, much to the chagrin of Smoking Jim Frazier. But I'm back here tonight, folks, with you back here in Pittsburgh, and we'll talk about the Daytona 500 a little bit later in the show. So don't tune out once we get to Fiction and Facts. Stay right here with your boy Zach. But what's on my mind, folks, is I'm going to talk about the Olympics briefly, mainly hockey. I'm sure Smoking Jim Frazier and Chip Hayner and Al Levine were watching a lot of hockey while I was down at the beach reporting live for you folks.
Just to interrupt you, I did.
Well, it wasn't the outcome that we wanted for the United States of America. We got bounced out and didn't even get a medal in the hockey tournament, but Russia didn't either. So I guess you got to kind of take the good with the bad, I guess. But what's on my mind is I truly feel that professional athletes, especially hockey players, should not play in the Olympics for the simple fact that if they get injured, there's no kind of compensation to the team that pays them the big money that made them who they are. I feel that the 1980 game proves that amateurs, even though the Russians weren't amateurs for all intents and purposes, but you know, I think it's time for our Olympics hockey program to let amateurs go out there and play, college kids, whoever, guys off the street, just anybody that's not a professional athlete making millions of dollars. Because a guy named Jonathan Tavares got hurt for the New York Islanders playing for Canada, and he's gone for the season. So the same thing could have happened to Sid, Gino, or any of our guys that we sent over there. And I just want to say thank God that there wasn't any kind of explosions or incidents over in Sochi that would have hurt anybody. So the Olympics went off without a hitch, except for a thing during the opening ceremonies that didn't work. But other than that, I just feel that there shouldn't be professional athletes in the Olympics, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Good job, Zach.
Thanks, Zach. Welcome back, buddy.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Smoking Jim Frazier, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. And if you want the green, you got to see Levine. And real quick, my Spotlight Player of the Week got to go out to the University of Pittsburgh. Aaron Donald, who went to high school.
Where'd he go?
Aaron Donald went to high school near Monroeville, and I tell you what, this guy,
Penn Hills.
this guy is a
Let him finish.
This guy is a phenomenal athlete. This guy is, you know, I remember his older brother. His older brother was a great player in high school and went to Toledo, and his dad was a great player for Alderdice. And I tell you what, this guy has worked himself into, you know, maybe one of the finest college players in the last 10 years. He's 6'1", which he measured a little taller than most scouts thought he was going to be. 285 pounds, runs the 40 in 4.6 on a slow track. That's moving, and bench presses 225 pounds, 35 reps. And I really believe, I don't know if he'll be there at the 15th pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I would endorse taking this guy to be a defensive end for the Steelers. Now, most people think he's a little short to be a defensive end, but the Steelers had a defensive end back in the day in the 3-4 defense by the name of Donald Evans.
Wow.
And Donald Evans was the same height, wasn't as strong as Aaron Donald is, about the same foot speed. And I tell you what, Donald Evans did a great job for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think Aaron Donald would too. So that's my Spotlight Player of the Week.
Excellent, Smoking Jim. Thanks for those insights.
We will revisit that.
Oh, no. You just wait.
We got some clip. We got some footage. We got some show footage of some previous comments.
We're okay, buddy.
I'm sorry. I'm happy to be back.
I'm glad to have you here.
I'm sorry.
Let's get the Chip. Then we'll let the fun begin after we revisit. Chip the Prophet Hayner, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind, Alan? I shocked the world. Those famous words were elicited 50 years ago today by the great Cassius Clay.
Wow.
And he shocked the world, and he beat the unbeatable Sonny Liston in the 7th round for the heavyweight championship of the world. And just want to give Muhammad Ali his props, and in his former being as Cassius Clay was the first time he won the world champion. But that's the first thing that's on my mind.
Is that part of your Black History Month?
That could be.
Because it's still Black History Month.
Well, it could
We don't want to
be.
be remiss on this.
It could be.
Thank you.
Last night I gave props to Lauren Williams for being and I
Isn't
didn't
it
mention that
February the
she was
shortest
first
month?
African-American woman athlete to win.
I was going to, but I chose not to interrupt
she
you.
is the first woman athlete to win an Olympic medal in the Summer and Winter Olympics.
Rochester?
Yes.
Rochester's on. But, really what's on my mind right now is, Zach touched on some very excellent points there regarding the Olympic hockey. But now what's on my mind is the Pittsburgh Penguins and, and what is Dan Bylsma going to do with this team? They got 24 games in a race to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the Penguins have a pretty nice lead. They're 40 wins, 15 losses. But, the one thing I don't really feel strongly about right now is that I really don't feel that the Penguins are the best team in the NHL. To be honest with you, even though they may have the best record, I don't even know if they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of very strong teams in the Western Conference. And watching Dan Bylsma, watching his team implode against the Canadian team and against the Finns, kind of makes me scratch my head. And here we go again with Dan Bylsma. Doing great in the regular season, but when it comes down to it all on the line, the team's coming up a little bit short. I know the Penguins have got some stumbling blocks. Paul Martin's out 4 to 6 weeks with a broken hand. Chris Letang, I don't think we're going to see him this year. But the Penguins are very deep in their defensive makeup right now, and I think what the Penguins really need to do is to focus more on playing defense. And I'd like to see a little more offense out of the so-called 2 best players in the world. I don't see enough scoring out of them. I think we should see more. But, I'm hopefully optimistic that the Penguins are going to make a run for the Cup this year. I hope Thomas Volkun will be healthy enough to help them in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but we'll wait and see. But my concern is I think the time is now, and the Penguins' time is running short on winning the Stanley Cup, and they need to start stacking them now.
Thanks, Chip Painter. Appreciate it.
No baseball.
I'm going to bring up. No, I'm not going to bring that up because we'll talk at Sips about some baseball.
Oh, no.
What I'm going to bring up is something that Smoking Jim alluded to, a coach at Pitt in basketball, that he wasn't as good as everybody's been saying he is because of how he schedules teams and everything else. Pitt's the team. We look around at Pitt, we see all these records. Now they're in the ACC. You can't have the ticky-tack calls because you have to shoot fouls. Now they're on a streak where they're not winning. They could play their way out of being in the NCAA just with what they're doing now. They're on the cusp right now because of what they didn't do. To me, that's so frustrating to see. You have a team that won 20 games. You had a team that looked unbeatable against teams that were slightly better than the Sisters of the Poor, and they do have a team out there, so you do have to watch that. So to me, I'm a big Pitt fan, and that's what's on my mind. Very disappointing. And now, thanks guys, we'll go to revisit whatever these gentlemen brought up, and they did try to keep it under 3 subjects per person, and that's a new record for our revisitation. And Chip gets a star. I don't have any today. Let me write on your head.
Let's jump to.
We're going to Little
Mr.
Z's
Penn Hills.
back. Just got back. He's excited to be on the show, and he's been chomping on the bit.
Let's jump to Mr. Penhills and Aaron Donald. I'm sure if
Hold it, what
Devin
school?
Shea,
What
if
school?
Devin Shea could pull up in the control room, I'm almost positive. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about Mr. Donald, and Smoking Jim called him a soft cupcake eating guy from Penn Hills. Now, 3 weeks later, after his 3rd best meatball hoagie in a row, he finally started watching some tape and saw that this kid is a beast and is a monster. The Clowney, the so-called #1 pick, consensus, potentially #1 pick, didn't even get nowhere near as many bench press reps as Aaron Donald.
How many did he get?
25.
25.
It's nothing to sneeze.
And Mr. Sams from the University of Missouri, Mr. SEC Player of the Defensive Player of the Year, he only got 15.
What?
15 at 225
I'm going to
pounds.
start watching
So,
that combine now.
what we talked about a couple weeks ago before I left and went on hiatus for a couple weeks to gather my thoughts and get myself tuned back in for you folks here is that I honestly think that this man it does not have the athletic abilities to play in the National Football League, maybe on special teams, but I don't see him being drafted, and not because of whatever preference or anything like that, but because he just doesn't simply possess the skills and the motor necessary to excel in the league, and I'm sticking to that story no matter what.
Let me just correct
You got
my good friend.
revisitation. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of
Let
all,
the bell begin. Ding.
I'm friends with the Donald family, and Aaron Donald's father is a friend of mine. And
Tell us his name. Tell us his name.
Aaron Donald's dad. And I want to correct my good friend. I've never said Soft and Aaron Donald together. I always liked him. I thought he would be a third-round pick. I did say he didn't deserve all the awards that he received this past year, and I'm sticking to that. And that's a problem with the Donald family. Those words.
You mean in
got
talking
back.
to you
And
anymore?
me.
Yeah, well, those words got back, but I got to be very honest. I think a lot of it now that I'm seeing, because I always thought that if he could have lasted to the third round, and I believe that's where most people had him projected coming into the season and throughout the season, I thought he'd be a good fit for the Steelers at the defensive end because of his motor and because that number 97 would be available as a jersey number for the Steelers by then. But now that I'm looking at it, I got to look very closely at the ineffectiveness of the Pitt staff. Now, they only had 52 tackles this year, which you don't win 4 different national awards and the linebacker awards on 50 tackles and 10 sacks. But looking at what he did at the Combine and what he did at the Senior Bowl game, this guy should have been moved around at Pitt so he couldn't have just been triple teamed. You move a player around like that. Now, granted, he was lining up next to a guy from Steel Valley, so they were just letting him go free.
Ding, ding.
Got players from
Ding,
Steel
ding.
Valley. A defensive lineman from Steel
ding.
Valley is like a blind dog in a meat market.
Come
But that's
on out to Sip Sports.
but lastly, before Chip goes, you can talk about Michael Sams all you want, and I'm sure we will continue to talk about him. But he outran Jarvis Too Slow Jones.
How much?
His slow 40, 4.91, was faster than Jarvis Too Slow Jones, 4.92.
Excellent point.
Well, and I'll tell you what, what Aaron Donald has done at the Combine is a testament pretty much to the work that he's done since the college bowl games were over. They go out, he was out in Arizona, and he was training at a sports facility with people
A lot of them do.
And basically, what they're doing is they're working on the skills that they'll be tested on at the Combine, which I think is kind of a little deceiving because how many of those skills, do they actually need to play football? I mean,
Here, Chip, let me just interrupt you.
measure
On a
football.
40, why do you need a 40-yard dash?
He doesn't run.
No, I
40
mean
yards.
anybody. I would go with a 10-yard dash or a 15-yard.
Well,
you need quick speed to get past people or
But-
blow them up.
But I would like to speak to something else that my young friend over here to my left I had touched
Smoking
on
gin?
before. And, and I do believe that this past Olympics will be the last Olympics that we see NHL players playing in the Olympics. And I totally agree with Zach where I think that the Olympics should be left to the amateurs. And, the professional players, they get paid to play professional hockey. It jams up the hockey season. You look at what they've done with the season so far this year. They compressed a lot of games into a short period of time. Then they get a break in the middle of the season. Now it's a crunching 24 more games.
I like that at the end.
And,
Though.
I think it's wrong. And then, the owners are the ones that ultimately are going to have the say-so whether NHL players play in the Olympics. And you talk to the owner of the New York Islanders, he thinks the International Olympic Committee owes him money because his his draw, the thing that puts fannies in the seats for the Islanders, is out for the rest of the season. They won't see him again until next October. So, who's going to compensate him for that? And doesn't even give that team a chance. And, that also goes for the Summer Olympics with the pros playing basketball. You can't tell me that with as many college basketball teams as we see out there, that you can't get 12 young men that could beat anybody else on the planet out of the NCAA. I think it used to happen all the time.
Well, I think the players' union are going to have a voice along with the owners as far as the players go. And I think the players, maybe the United States may send amateurs, but the teams across the world continue to send.
This all started with the Russians because their army was the team.
Well,
when Russia, the USSR failed, then you had a change. And that's what's been going on. They wanted to compete, make it equal.
Well,
so they let the pros in. To
But
me, this goes with everything else. They shouldn't be in the Olympics. It's real simple. And no country should be allowed to do it.
Well, I think all the countries should be allowed to do it, but I agree with Chip that the United States never should have had professional basketball players playing in the Olympics, and same way with hockey. Mm-hmm. We've always had our amateurs, and I think we should go back to that.
And I tell you what, we won numerous gold medals in basketball before we had the Dream Team, and I just think it's just another marketing ploy to globalize the NBA, and that's one thing that, David Stern did a very good job of, because when David Stern took over the helm of the NBA, they were more than half the franchises were on the verge of bankruptcy, and now he turned that into a global trademark, and it's now $1 billion industry.
Did he design the long shorts?
I don't know if he did or not.
No,
And those jerseys are horrid with the sleeves, folks, if I can tell you that. Is there not going to be an all-star game in hockey due to the Olympics?
No.
There will be no all-star game this
I didn't
year.
know that.
That is
I didn't know
unbelievable.
that.
That's another reason to cancel
That's one of the
Olympics.
best all-star
But
games.
I
in
also
baseball.
heard this rumor, though, too,
That you've seen?
that they're going to not play pros in the hockey Olympics, and they're going to revive the World Cup of hockey and do that every 4 years, like how they do it in soccer. That's the plan. If they're not going to send them to the Olympics, then they're going to have
But they used to do that in the summer during the players' off time. But, there's going to have to, because of the, these guys are signed to 10-year, 70, 80, $100 million contracts.
No pros, who cares?
But I can say one thing. Little Z's gotten so much smarter since he was down there talking to all them rednecks down south. You got a whole new perspective.
Hold on, what color's his neck? Pull that little thing off. Look at it. If that's not red, Tiger, get a close-up of that neck. I'm serious. Tiger. Where's Smoking Jim? Talk to him. He's not listening to me. He's not listening to me.
He's listening to the audio.
Did you get a close-up of his red neck? Then why did we not see it? Because we're looking at the monitor.
Let's not look at the monitor.
Jeez.
But I think part of the
All right,
reason
that
why
was
we
just fun.
lost.
Sorry, folks.
I
We're
think-
live TV. We're having
I
some
think
fun.
part of the
That is
reason we
expensive.
lost in hockey is we simply just didn't have the firepower, though. I mean, the Canadians
Wait a
had
second.
a
We
lot
had
more.
20 goals in
the
3
first
games.
four.
4 games. 20 goals. Because they count the shootout goals, too.
No, they didn't. No, they got 20 goals in the
Oh,
first
did they?
4
I
games.
thought they said they were
We
counting.
would have had a lot more.
We beat Slovakia 9-1 when we played them in
That's
the first
true.
game.
All right, I stand corrected there. But we had the same power outage that the Penguins suffer during the playoffs.
Good point.
So I wanted to bring that up because that's a problem. Because who's the coach? What happened?
But you know what? What
The
was
power went out.
What was the
Power didn't go out in Canada.
What was the?
Well, because coach.
Now, Alan, you know what? The same thing. What was the common denominator in the playoffs last year against the Bruins,
Great
and when
goaltending.
we played the Finns? Tuukka Rask in the nets.
Great goaltending.
And I will tell you this. The Finns would have been playing for the gold medal had Tuukka Rask played when Finland played Sweden, missed the game because he had the flu. He would have been the difference in that game. And if the Finns would have played the Canadians, the Finns would
Easy
have won the
profit.
gold.
He was picking
Well-
the Finns.
Well, all I can say is I'm happy for Sidney Crosby. He'll be bringing the gold medal back to the city of Pittsburgh. That's my favorite hockey player currently.
that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Besides Yager.
Yager's my favorite.
If he
all
walked
time.
past Smoking Jim, he wouldn't even know who he is.
He got an afro, pretty much.
Oh, he
It's close to yours. He got the curly. He got the curly crow going, man.
Hey, Marion's out of the Zazie. Cut that hair today.
yeah, thanks, Marianne, for the haircut. It is Azu. I appreciate it. I said I'd give you a shout out. I did forget to give a shout out. I hope Easy E's watching. My man, does that camera go on me at all? Or we're done? We don't have any close-ups. I wanted to give Easy E
There you
a
go.
shout out. There we go. Personally from Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Thanks for being a big fan. And he's right now tossing a pizza at Bishop's Pizza. Go out to Bishop's Pizza. We're at now
Whitaker
Whitaker.
Way.
Now, I don't know if they have the best pizza or what, because we're not allowed to say that on public access TV. You let me know. You
Easy.
can send me a message.
Easy
E, let me know.
Sound like, wasn't that a rapper in NWA? Oh, wait a minute, that's a 15-yard penalty. I can't say that.
It will
Cable
be.
just cut.
It will be.
Dave Cable just paging right
Snoop
now.
Dogg and the
NWA. What? Jesus. Go back to Gateway with that talk.
Where are we on revisitation? You guys open up 3 or 4 more subjects. How do we get to there? Any more revisitation?
Pit hoops. I was fortunate enough to catch the choke job down in
Why
North
did you watch
Carolina.
it?
Well, because I was
They
homesick
played-
and I
they
wanted to
played
see,
here.
I just wanted to see the Pete.
Yeah, they were at home.
They were
I
at home.
got
They
it
got
right to myself.
dusted
That
wrong.
redneck of yours is showing up again. You think you're in the South and you're watching games in the South. Get a close-up of that redneck again.
Well, you know, if we're gonna talk about the Pitt basketball team right now, and I think Alan hit on a very good point, is that Pitt is in the process of playing its way out of the NCAA tournament. You know, they've got 4 games left this year, and I said a few weeks ago that I felt Pitt would make the NCAA tournament and lose in the first
that
round,
include
and
the
I don't
ACC?
even think they're going to make the ACC tournament, to be honest with you, the way they're playing now.
Yeah.
So that 4 games doesn't include if they make the ACC.
No, that's
tournament.
4 games in a regular
Regular
season,
season.
then the ACC.
Oh, not
tournament.
everybody makes the ACC tournament.
Everybody but Pitt.
Wow.
If they
20
keep
games,
thinking up
20
the
wins,
joint.
you may not make it.
Hey,
What?
listen,
Wow.
when you have 20 wins against Bethune-Cookman,
Who?
you know, I mean, shout out to Bethune-Cookman too, man.
Yeah,
Y'all
that's
gave me a lovely
disrespectful.
tour, down there in Central Florida. I was delighted with the soul food that I ate.
Well, you know what, though? Here's something else. You know, you look at the number 1 team in the ACC this year is Virginia. Virginia last year, playing in the ACC, had a 23-12 record and did not make the NCAA
Oh, I
tournament.
didn't know
So
that.
20 wins does not guarantee you a spot. And Pitt they've beaten 1 team with an RPI of less than 50.
And what's Pitt's
Any team
RPI?
that they have played that is ranked this year, they've lost to every single one.
Really?
They do not have a single signature win this year. And, you know, they've got close a couple of times, but they just can't seem to get it done at crunch time.
Pitt has an RPI of
Got a
35,
disease.
35 right now, and they have a strength of schedule of 55. So, you know, Jamie Dixon, you know, you're not bringing in, you know, blue chip athletes, and you're playing, you know, some really soft competition and wondering why we're getting hammered down the stretch. It's time to step it up in Oakland, or maybe it's time to go in a different direction. And that's
Like, get some playmakers.
yeah, get some kids, you know, go back up to New York and start recruiting some of those street ballers, whatever it takes. You know, get some Harlem Globetrotters. I don't care.
Might be
Anybody.
retired. Their eligibility's up.
Well, you know, now, you know, to kind of wrap this all up, I will say one thing. The Pitt basketball team and the Penguins over the last 4 years have had one thing in common. They've disappointed their
Underachieved.
fans time and time again, and it's time that they started doing something about it. And you know, you can't fire the team. And you know, is it time to start thinking about, you know, do we need to bring somebody in here, because we've got the best team on paper in hockey, and if the coach that's sitting there right now,
I gotta revisit
isn't-
your revisitation.
No, if that guy isn't getting them to the championships, then you know maybe you need to bring some new.
As
blood
Yogi
in.
Berra said, this is deja vu all over again. Look when Bausma come in here. Wasn't it February when they got rid of Michael Therrien? Somewhere around then. It's a little bit late because of the Olympics, but think about it. You have a great core group of players, and you might need that change. He's already outlived how long hockey coaches stay in as a coach. And their time is up. It's usually less than 4 years.
Stability is crucial to winning
Not
in
in
a
hockey.
franchise. It's
Not
crucial.
in hockey.
The Detroit Red Wings, the coach that just coached Canada to the gold medal, with Al Levine's alluding to coaching, was Babcock. And Babcock is the coach of the Red Wings. And right now, the Red Wings do not have the talent, and they are not that good right now. And they just lost Zetterberg, probably for the rest of the regular season, at the Olympics. Another casualty of war. in the Olympics in Russia. But I just think that if it does come down to coaching, though, you win some, you lose some. Like, you don't always win. Like, Lombardi lost games. Lombardi didn't win every game, you know? So, I mean, I'm overly critical of Bylsma, but it also, we have stars. And when your stars don't perform, Bylsma's not the one out on the ice, you know, shooting the puck or making the passes, you know. So
those are great points, except for one thing. Sometimes when you can't fire the players, it's very difficult.
That's it.
Now, the thing that does shake them up is when their buddy and the guy that gives attaboy and a little pat here and then yells at him once in a while, he could be gone. Guess what they're going to do? Now I got to perform for the new guy.
Well,
you know that. You're a promoter.
But Alan,
You're an instigator.
Let's not lose sight
Think
of the
about
fact that when Dan Bylsma took over this team, Mike Therrien had alienated everybody in the team, and the one thing that the team was unified in was in their hatred of Mike Therrien. And I think that you could have coached them to a Stanley Cup that year,
don't give me credit
because
there.
they were such a talented team, and they were so united in their hatred for him that they were going to win to spite him, just to show him that, you know what, the abuse that you heaped upon us, you were wrong. We're better than what you ever said we were. But now, you know, I don't know if
Except
Dan
for one
Bylsma
thing,
is
Therrien gave him a defensive nature that they actually used. He had a defense that they kept that system. Now, Bylsma, and I'm as stubborn as they come. People that know me, you know I'm stubborn. Now, so's Bylsma. But you know what? Every once in a while, I mix it up. I mean, I don't interrupt every sentence. I'll wait for a couple sentences. So that's what you have to do with the team. And Bylsma has to show that he's willing to do it. Yeah, it's a great system, but you got to tweak it. Look at what you produced. We should have had at least 2 cups. I say 3, with how they had the talent out there.
You know what? They need to start
We only
exhibiting.
have
They're
one.
not
They
playing
need to
against
start
amateurs,
exhibiting some
in
tough
the
Hold
Stanley
it.
Cup.
When you have a power outage, it's not just the goaltender. You got some pure scorers that can score on anything. To score
And when
no
they
goals.
couldn't hit the broadside of a barn
But that's-
in the playoffs, I mean, that's not Dan Bylsma's fault. He's not the one
I'm not
shooting
blaming
the puck.
Bylsma.
But the
How
one
do you
thing that
motivate
Bylsma does not do is he does not make adjustments in game. He runs with that same system, and look at what he did against Canada and against Finland. They just kept running out, doing the same thing time and time, and it wasn't working. You got to make some changes in game. You got to
We
make
don't know
adjustments.
for the fact if we could have made all the changes in the world, if it would have changed the outcome. And I don't go back because you can't control
Hold it.
the past.
We were Monday
We can
morning
only control the
quarterbacks when we
future,
said
but
this.
Listen,
We're just revisiting
when
history.
the stars don't produce, it doesn't matter who coaches. You could have the greatest coach on earth. The playmakers got to make plays. If they don't make plays, it doesn't matter. Any one of us could be coaching.
Good point.
I could get in whoever's face I want to get into. I could pull whatever strings I want to pull. If the puck's not going into the back of the net, the goalie can only do so much. He can't go down and score. You know, and the coach can only do and say so much. It comes down to the players and who wants it more. And Team USA simply just didn't want it more, and that's why we didn't get it. And that's why the Penguins don't have
And
it.
that's a reflection of the way they're
Good
coached.
point.
Well,
And we're all in tight. We're going to agree to disagree because we could keep arguing about it. I'm not saying Bylsma should go. I say he's an intelligent guy like other coaches are. You can
I
tweak
think
a
some
system.
coaches coach to the best of their ability, and at the end of the day, the talent is still talent, and it has to produce. And when it doesn't produce, you could be out of a job and homeless
the
on the
point.
street,
So I
but
guess
not
that
for any
takes care of
fault
the
of your
Penguin.
own.
Yeah.
And
I
Pitt
get
for
it.
this week.
Yeah, I was going to talk Penguins. Hold it. Okay. We're going to now go to Sips Sports Bar, unless you want a revisitation.
I need to know what happened last night at Sips, folks. Let's hear
Okay,
this.
we'll move to the next subject. You can watch that on your smartphone and find out. We don't want to rub in what a great time it was.
It's always a great
I
time.
want to
when I'm
thank
out there.
Diana for getting us Grant Jackson on the show. That was just super, and Sean Moon for an
And could you
assist there.
tell my generation and all the younger folks at home who Mr. Jackson is? And I'm not
No,
talking
I-
about Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
50 Cent. 50. I didn't know there's 50.
As a matter of fact, I'll get into that in trivia time here.
He'll
I've got
get
some-
there, but
Okay.
just as a little thing, you guys have these smartphones, you know, I don't have one, and there's a thing called Google and Bing. I heard Bing's better, so let me
What
know
do you
what's
think?
going on. Well, I sort of like Google still, because it's not really a search engine, but the advertising money they make is just super. But that's another subject.
You're talking economics, it's going way over Smoking Jim Fraser's head.
1 +
What?
1 = 2.
I
but
never
it
even
was
heard
a
of
great
Bing.
night.
I never heard
Heavy
of that.
money, man, is when you take a bunch of stacks of ones to the strip club, man. That's heavy money.
No,
Throw it in
no.
your-
Heavy money's like this. When you call up your bookie and say, I want to put 10 dimes on the team, and I'm getting 18 to
it's
1.
10 dimes, then it's 10 dimes. It means 10 dimes, you know, folks at home.
10 dimes. And you can bing that. I mean, you can Google that. And let's go to Sips Sports Bar because we can talk odds and
Yes,
all
we
that
can.
other stuff whenever we want. It was a great night. Grant Jackson has a World Series ring from 1979. You know, that's the last year that the Pirates won a World Series.
Wow.
I don't know how many years, but it's before your time, Z. So
4
you got to
years
look that
before my
up.
time.
You can check it out. He's a great gentleman. He has a great sense of humor. You would have liked the interaction. Chip, I let him talk before the interview,
Yeah,
and it was just great.
because I didn't interrupt him while he was on the air.
And we just wanted to let him roll, and you have to watch it. It's like 20 minutes of great interaction with us and the people there.
I really enjoyed meeting Grant and talking baseball with him, and you know, it was just like, you know, two people that absolutely love the game of baseball, and it was really a lot of fun to talk to him.
And even people that didn't love baseball could enjoy it because they could see what a person he is. He's 71 years old.
Wow.
You wouldn't know that. He's as sharp as a tack. He was telling us stuff, making jokes, innuendos, everything else. It was just a fun time. We also had Smokin' Jim's ringside announcer, who's one of the best. Elise Alberts was just fantastic. And I tried to mix it up to educate my other members here on the show. I had Alex Barnoff come on and try to teach them to be geniuses. And Zach, this would have been for you because you schedule so many different jobs. He would have taught you, Smokin' Jim, is your phone going to explode?
Nope, because I got it.
See, he's not going to forget it. That's a little thing. See, he learned a lesson. And the best meatball hoagie that I had in 3 weeks was served last night. Oh, I mean, is that 2 weeks? That was his. It was last night. They have a seafood special at Sips every Sunday. I got to go there. $3.
Hopefully that seafood's
Check it
not
out.
from the mall.
No, they import it from the ocean. Okay? It's ocean fish. Ocean. Bing that. All right? Then they have other specials. Smokin' Jim can tell you because I hear he's there 3-4 nights a week. Our man Dan, the best coffee in the world, he's up there. It was just a lot of fun. Check out Sips. We're there at Pittsburgh Sports Line on Monday, and we're going to have the Rangers there. Bill Miller, the head coach, agreed to finally be on the show. He's been keeping us in suspense. So Bill Miller will be there. And Josh Superman Myers, it was great. He's a class act.
Who's the official team security provider for the Pittsburgh Rangers?
I don't know. It was posted on Facebook. We're doing a little Ranger talk. All right.
Ranger
We
up.
got Zach Brenner as Rangered up as security. Smokin' Jim Frazier and myself are announcing for him. We're working out all the final details, and BPTV is going to film. I've heard anywhere from 1 to 3 games. It depends on who they don't like, and that's why they don't want to film all the games. So we'll work out the details. That's coming attractions. That's it for Sips Sports Bar. Just see us next Monday. You can meet Bill Miller, head coach of Ranger Up. Now, one of my favorite segments here, Fiction and Fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine, and this one is one that's near and dear to my heart. I tell you what, I grew up as a historian of the game of football. Had season tickets to the Steelers since I was 4, and heard all the stories of how great O.J. Simpson was, and after the Super Bowl, I reached out to him at Lovelock Correctional Institute in Nevada, and was able to talk to OJ on the phone twice. And the first time
On
that
your phone, just interrupt. Okay.
yeah.
Just checking.
And
That's a record. Sorry, folks. A lot of people, we've been getting feedback about inside jokes. He has a smartphone that's only a text phone, and to get in through that is awesome. For him to actually talk
That's
on
not
the
one
phone.
of those Obama government phones, is it?
We digress. Go ahead with this. I didn't mean to interrupt that, but you are talking to a criminal who was convicted of something else, not the murders.
right.
So,
And,
go ahead.
The juice.
No
and,
juice.
And the first conversation was great, and my desire was just to do a story on him. I know that he told me he was 66 years old, and that he was able to, through appeal, get one of the convictions eliminated, but he still has at least 4 more years of a 33-year sentence on the other one before it comes up before appeal. And I told him my desire was to write a story. So the second time we talked was when I was disappointed, because I knew that OJ's battery was dead, and I thought, just like a car, that I could use, his negative energy could connect to my positive energy, and could maybe make a difference in his life. But when he told me that he wrote a book entitled "If I Did It," that's when we kind of parted ways, and I didn't want to, because I really believe that after the second conversation, he was looking, because he didn't know what part of the media I was part of, but he was trying to use me to get a message out there that would benefit him when he got out of jail. That's the sense that I got. So my prayers go out to everybody involved, and prayers go out to OJ, and but I won't be making a call again. But it was great to talk to a living legend.
Hold on,
So
one
that's
question.
my
That's a
fiction and
great fiction and fact. But did you write the article?
No, I won't write that.
Okay, just checking.
And sometimes, folks, you have to weigh the difference between fiction and fact. I'll leave that for you folks at home. Everything Zach tells you is 100% factual and can be documented. And I'm Zach Brennan, and I approve this message.
And as I always state, the opinions here are the opinions of the people speaking those.
But one thing I will say before we go to Chip is that
How do you know we're going to Chip?
the last place that you want to go went to a prison that's called Lovelock. So I felt bad for
Yet
him.
another disclaimer, insensitivity.
Well, is it more?
I told you it wouldn't be the last
Would you rather
thing.
go to Lovelock, or would you rather go to San Quentin? I don't know.
All right, enough of this fiction and fact. We're getting a lot of
Alcatraz.
fiction and fact. I can't keep track. All right, now let's go. We're going to go to one of my favorite segments if we can get to it.
This is factual, folks.
Okay,
100%.
stop.
Here we
Stop.
go.
Let him go.
Here we go. We're getting to Chip's trivia time. Chip, what do you have for
What do
us?
I have? Now, to answer my good friend here, Mr. Brenner, who is Grant Jackson? Now, Grant Jackson had a 21-year Major League Baseball career. He was originally signed by the Philadelphia Phillies in 1964, and he made his Major League debut on September the 3rd, 1965. He was signed by the Philadelphia Phillies, played the first 6 years of his career for the Phillies, and then he went and played for the Baltimore Orioles. And the Baltimore Orioles at that time were a team that was a perennial title contender. They played in the World Series in 1969. They played in the World Series. They lost to the Mets, the amazing Mets. They played in 1970 against the Cincinnati Reds, and they beat the Cincinnati Reds that year. Wow. They played the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1971. And during my conversations with Mr. Jackson last night, prior to the show, because I get around a baseball person, I could sit and talk baseball with him for all day, and I really wanted him to be the focus of our show last night. I didn't want to be interrupting him. So I got talking to him, and here I found out, I mentioned the fact that the 71 World Series team, of all the Pirate Championship teams that were around in my lifetime, that was my favorite of them all. At that time I was in 6th grade, and I was playing baseball, and I absolutely idolized Roberto Clemente. And, I remember listening to the 71 World Series on a transistor radio. So, I brought up the fact that the first night World Series baseball game was played here at Three Rivers Stadium. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, without me knowing this, and I found this out today, well, I found this out later on in talking with Mr. Jackson last night, he pitched in that game too. And it was funny because he told a story about pitching to a certain Hall of Famer, Pittsburgh icon, just a worldwide icon, Roberto Clemente. And I found it very interesting because he never played on the team with Roberto. He played against him. And, it was he had some really amusing things to tell us. But, Grant Jackson's career extended into the mid-'80s. His last year he played was actually for the Pirates in 1982. He played for the Orioles from 1970 till 1976 and was traded from the Orioles to the Yankees. And he managed to play in a World Series with the New York Yankees. And they came up a little short that year. I believe that was one of the years of the Big Red Machine, 1975-76. Yep. The Reds won back-to-back titles. And after he left the Yankees that year, he came to the Pirates, where he spent another 6 years. And he played on some of the best Pirate teams of all time. He played with people like Dave Parker, Willie Stargell, et al., won a world championship here, and actually I believe he pitched the final out of the 1979 World Series in the 7th game. One of the things that Alan asked him last night, or maybe it was one of the people in the audience, they asked him about, say something about Willie Stargell, and he said that he was one of the best ball players, one of the best people, just all-around good guy that he'd ever met in the game. And that was really kind of nice to hear because I know how much all of us here revere Willie Stargell, and I know he was a little bit before your time, Zach, but, I grew up watching him.
He sees the statue once in a while.
I grew up watching him play, and, and it was a really, really nice thing to hear that happen. But, Grant Jackson finally, after leaving the Pirates in 1981, he went to the Montreal Expos for a season. Then he played a season at the Kansas City Royals, and he came back and retired as a Pirate in 1982. So it was really nice to talk to him because it was, from the time that when he played baseball, those were during the days when the Pirates were perennial winners. In the 60s and 70s, the Pirates were, a pretty incredible baseball team. And I know, Zach, most of your life, they have been just a little bit shy of that. But, in talking to him last night, one of the things that, and I'll just kind of wrap this up real quick, I talked to him about pitching, of course, because he's a pitcher, and, that seems to be a passion of mine. And I started talking to him about how, they make a big deal when a pitcher pitches 200 innings, okay? And we both started laughing, and I said to him, that the last time a pitcher pitched 300 innings in a season was in 1981 when Steve Carlton did it, who, pitched for the Phillies. And we talked about the age of specialization, and I said, I think it's one of the most ridiculous things in the world that you have a pitcher that pitches the 7th inning and a guy that only pitches the 8th inning, and you've got your closers, And I said to him, how many games did you come in and start pitching in the 6th inning and close out the game? But that's just what you did. You pitched. But, one of the things he told me, he said, in the last 15 years, how many complete games do you think Pirates pitching staff has pitched? And I looked at her and I said, well, without looking up any statistics, I bet you it's less than 10. I bet you it's in single digit. He had one season in his career, and what he told me last night was that he had 17 complete games in one season. Now, which prompted me to pull up some statistics.
He's checking on him.
It prompted me to pull up some statistics about Major League Baseball. And the Major League Baseball record for complete games in a season was way back in 1879. Will White pitched 75 complete games in one season. So, that's a little bit before any of our time. So I started looking back, and I look back here just the last time a pitcher, there's been one time since the year 2000 that a pitcher has had more than 10 complete games in a season, and that was by James Shields of the Tampa Bay Rays in 2011. But, the guys are leading the league in complete games pitched with numbers like 4. Last year, Adam Wainwright had 4 complete games for the St. Louis Cardinals. David Price had 4 for the Tampa Bay Rays. And I just think that, what were the pitchers doing back then that they can't do now? They're bigger, they're better, they're stronger, they have year-round training, they're dedicated to their profession, and, you can't pitch a complete game. And I just think it's a sad testament to the way baseball has kind of deteriorated in that aspect than it did in the past. But that was my trivia for this week.
Thanks,
I know
Jeff.
it was kind of all over the place, but that's
Well, that happens sometimes. I appreciate it. I'm a baseball fan too. And
If it wasn't for Chip Hayner, I would not know anything as much as I know about baseball. So
No,
we got to
thanks.
thank the old guard for keeping us young,
Yeah.
young bucks in
Hey,
tune with
you
the
know.
history of the game, which we so often forget because most of us enjoyed the steroid era with the asterisk next to it. But if
No
you're going to put an
asterisk.
asterisk next to the players, I also urge you to put an asterisk next to the commissioner and the owners of baseball because they all knew that these players
Yes,
were in
sir.
on it and what they
Yes,
were doing.
This will be another
Yes, sir.
discussion.
And I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
The owners and the commissioner was every bit as complicit in this as the players that used him, and I absolutely agree with you.
And now they want to step in now after the fact and punish, guys.
Well, it's not the owners that are punishing the players. It's the players that played that are in the Hall of Fame. It's the sports writers. They're the ones that are exacting the revenge, not the owners.
Put Barry Bonds in.
He's
No.
already coaching. Here's a breaking news.
Giants.
He's coaching
It
this
is-
year. Right now in spring training, brother.
right.
Well,
Check it out.
But you know what, though? Here's the thing. When Barry Bonds signed his final contract with the San Francisco Giants, he signed, I believe, a 10-year deal where he would come and, he's like a paid consultant
Right.
where he comes in, and this is all part of a contractual
Most of
obligation
them
that
Just
he
like
has.
what they did
And
in
he had
Texas
for like a
with
decade
Mac
after
Brown.
he retires.
Mac Brown resigned. Had he been fired, he wouldn't have got this. But since he resigned, it was in the terms of his contract now where he gets $500,000 a year to be some kind of special consultant to the athletic director of the University of
This
Texas.
is common in sports and people in contracts. We won't talk about Brett Favre, what he turned down so he could keep playing. So he'd have made a lot of money that way.
Well,
It happens.
I heard the Texas hired a guy that would have been a good defensive coordinator or position coach, but not a head coach, according to some of the old money
Well,
in Texas.
Mr. Strong, we'll see. We'll see how this plays
All right,
out. for
let's
the long
let-
haul.
Hey, do you mind if I go off the reservation here for a minute?
Go ahead, we're all
got a
way
question
off.
for you, Smoking Jim.
Yes, sir.
You're the scout, and you follow a lot of college football. What do you think? I think this was a genius move by the University of West Virginia, picking up Tom Bradley, making him a defensive
Line coach.
well, yeah, I don't know if
Assistant
he's a
head coach.
consultant.
Assistant head
I
coach.
thought they said on the
Now,
line.
do you know what I
Assistant head
think?
coach.
Now, listen to this scenario. Dana Holgerson has not made a lot of friends in Morgantown.
Or
A
anywhere.
lot of West
Wherever
Virginia
he goes.
alumni don't like him very much.
nut.
So you bring in Tom Bradley to work on improving that defense. I say before the end of next season, Tom Bradley's going to be the head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers.
Well, I can tell you this about Tom Bradley is a friend of mine. And, Tom Bradley did a lot of work with the Steelers in the last couple of years. And I can tell you this about Tom Bradley, what I know about Scrappy, is that there's not been a better recruiter of high school athletes than Tom Bradley. And what he does cannot be duplicated. And one day when we have more time, I'll talk about it on the show. Tom Bradley going to West Virginia, number one, he should have been a Penn State head coach.
But didn't it work out for him, though? Thank you, Jesus, Lord, that he didn't become the head coach of Penn State, though, because
Why?
he would have got mired and had to deal with all that stuff up there in Happy Valley.
Well, he was part of. He was a major part of all of that. But Tom Bradley's ability to recruit is not going to only hurt Pitt, but I tell you what, it's going to strengthen West Virginia. This guy's ability to get the top players in the country, and when I explain to you what he does, anybody can do. I call it easy to do and easy not to do. But what he does, he is so consistent and he is so good
You ever
that
been to Morgantown?
he can almost
Yes.
get anybody. And if you go to a football game at Morgantown, they pack the house.
I have
Yes,
been.
they
So that's
do.
the key for
Yes, they
getting. That's
do.
one of the keys for getting.
They
a high
also
school
don't have
athlete.
anything else down there, though. And the football team and the college is like literally like everything to those hillbillies in West Virginia. But let me touch on another fact, though, while we're down in West Virginia. While Dana Holgerson, I think bringing Bradley in is probably one of the sheer genius moves that they've ever done down there in the state of West Virginia. And as Smoking Jim alluded to, the recruiting aspect of it is unreal. He's been able to get a lot of the top guys from Western Pennsylvania to stay in Western Pennsulvania. And the fact that he got some of these guys to go to Happy Valley, there's about as much in Happy Valley as there is in West Virginia.
you.
And there's bad water in West Virginia now, too, folks. Keep that in mind.
But you know what? The reason why I brought this thing up about Tom Bradley, because I think this is a big well, once again, Pitt dropped the ball in a big way because they could have had Tom Bradley.
Yeah, as a head coach.
And
I
you know,
love
and
it.
I mean,
He can recruit.
he can recruit. He's well known here. I mean, Pitt could have actually gotten more of a homegrown talent.
Well, we killed that subject. We got to move on. I got a special segment here. We're holding out 9 minutes to go. The Zach report.
Oh, Lil Z.
I'll give myself a round of applause. Thank you, folks.
I stunned him.
Thank
See,
you.
you didn't know I can mix it up as a head
Give
coach.
myself a little.
He's been on assignment. Now he's back. Can you first, John, I know we're not getting close-ups tonight because something's wrong. Can you at least get the tire that's in our... Please.
He got 10 newspapers. I bet he can't find one black person in there.
Well, I'm gonna touch on that, folks. You can bet I'm
We
gonna
can't get
touch
the
on
tire.
that. No, I think we got
We
it.
got it? All
Yeah, we
right,
got
just
it.
checking.
Blending in.
So on Wednesday, I traveled down to Speed Weeks in Daytona. It's the Super Bowl of NASCAR. It's by far one of the biggest stock car races of the year, and probably one of the biggest races in all of auto motorsports. And I was fortunate enough to get down there on Wednesday. I had great hosts. My cousins Melanie and Ed were fantastic, terrific. They took me and my brother in and made us feel very welcome down there in Central Florida, Central East Florida, as I keep getting corrected. Ran into a lot of Jaguars fans that didn't like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just kind of laughed in their face and said, you know, you guys are a disgrace, so you can laugh at us all you want. We got 6 rings. You guys haven't won anything in Jacksonville. So, but, you know, to touch on Smoking Jim's thing, I did meet one of the only brothers at the Daytona 500
Tell
in the
him
pit
who.
box, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. I was fortunate enough to meet 50 Cent down in the pit box and touch base with 50 Cent. He just recently got into NASCAR and is a part of Swan Racing. And
See
has-
that, Smoking Jim?
has
If you'd have watched
sponsorship.
the race, you'd have seen what Little Z saw. I did see it.
So, in addition to meeting Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, I was fortunate enough to meet Larry the Cable Guy and Gary Sinise, who played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. Just absolutely great guy. Signed my sleeve. You know, we were talking about wet socks and how crucial it is to me and Brenner Contracting to have dry socks.
You might have to explain that, Joe, because not everybody watched the movie like that.
Well, if you've never seen Forrest Gump, they're getting ready to re-release it for the 20-year anniversary this summer. So go out to movie theaters, folks, and check out Forrest Gump.
My favorite
It's by
movie.
far one of my favorite movies ever
You
of
got
all
any
time.
chocolate over there?
I did eat. Me and the mayor did have. We did have lunch the other day at Bubba Gump's down in Daytona Beach. It was obviously based on from the movie Forrest
is
Gump.
it
Bubba
fresh
Gump.
seafood?
Yep, shrimp, lots of
Just
shrimp.
like at Sip
Yep,
Sports
yep,
Bar.
boiled shrimp, baked
Boiled
shrimp, all the
shrimp,
shrimp,
baked shrimp,
yep, all the
sauteed shrimp.
Shrimp.
Shrimp
So,
souffle.
I got down to Daytona on Wednesday, and I wasn't fortunate enough to get to the track until, you know, probably about Saturday when I first got my first glimpses of this 2.5-mile oval. It's the biggest racetrack in NASCAR. I mean, it's got 40-degree banking. The banking is ridiculous. Go on Pittsburgh Sportsline on Facebook. I'll put a picture of what the banking looks like. But once I finally got to the track, my idol died in 2001 in Turn 4 in the same area where I sat. And it was just, there was a lot of emotions running through me as I returned to Daytona. Been a huge stock car fan since '92. And for my race car driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr., to win the race after not winning for 56 races in 10 years in the Daytona 500, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better storyline to be there with my little brother and to see it happen live. We went through a lot. There was a rain delay. I did more in 38 laps than most people do in the whole race in 200. You see the ground I covered, the people that I met. I even got a job while I was down in the infield talking to some folks from Jeanette,
For what
Pennsylvania,
company?
for Brenner
Okay,
Contracting.
you didn't mention that.
We went through a huge battle to get this tire back to Pittsburgh. Southwest Airlines wasn't trying to let me put this on the
You
plane.
better give the short edition because we're running out of time and you got a lot of stuff to cover.
But once we got into the race, it was a good race. There was a lot of accidents. There was a lot of action. Dale Jr. took over the race with about 30 laps to go and pretty much didn't look back. Junior Nation was going crazy. My voice was gone for 2 days. I'm glad I got it back in time to be here for you folks tonight. But it was an absolute fantastic trip to Daytona Beach, Florida. Glad I could represent Pittsburgh Sportsline, Brenner Contracting, the city of Pittsburgh, Homestead, Still Valley. You know how we do here.
Gateway.
Nah.
we're not starting that battle.
we don't. No.
Ding, ding.
Hey, and Tyrone Ezel, I need you to come out on Monday night to Sips Sports Bar. We'll have a great interview there for you with Smoking Jim Frazier. A couple other things I want to touch on real quick too while I was at Daytona. Like I said, I met Larry the Cable Guy. he was a pretty funny character. All he really has is get her done. And that was about it. That's all he really says is get her done. That's his thing. But if I could hold up
What do you have
the
there?
newspaper from the morning after we won the race down there in Daytona, and like I said, words can't describe how much of a feeling it was to just get down there and be a part of Speed Weeks and this victory. It was a dream
There we
come true
go.
for me, and I was just elated to be a part of it. I almost climbed the fence. But we did everything down there, me and my brother, from sign the start-finish line. I was in the garage. I was in the pits. I watched the first 38 laps from on the wall in pit lane. So I couldn't ask for a better ending to a great story and a great trip. And I'm glad to be back here with you folks. And that's my report from
Are you
Daytona
going
Beach,
back
Florida.
next year?
Yes, sir.
Matter
Yes,
of
sir.
fact, where's the key to that house? Look, that's how much they like the cousin. He now has a key. That's inside info right there.
Yep. And we can get one more close in of this is what the trophy looks like, me and my brother. Can we get that? Can we get that, John?
Is that a photo of you guys? Because I saw that on Facebook.
There you go. That was before the race. So that, I mean, like I said, it was
That's
a dream
the
come
Brunner
true.
boys.
It was a dream come true for us,
Wow,
for
I
myself,
didn't
to
know
get
that.
to go back to Daytona where my idol passed and to watch his son get it done. It's just a truly.
You got her done.
Yeah, he got her done. Is right.
Wow, y'all blend right in with the crowd.
That's what NASCAR is. How many hours were you at the track is what I want to know. How many hours were you at the track?
On
Well,
Sunday.
on Sunday we left
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were 10 minutes away from the track from where my cousin's gated community was.
Did you say rated?
We got there.
Oh, you didn't say
We got
that
there
out.
quick. We got there quick, and we spent, like I said, we spent the whole time we had infield passes. We went down to the infield.
I see you're not taking that off.
Yeah, I can't take it off. I'm superstitious. I'm like a little kid. I'm still celebrating here back in Pittsburgh. You would have thought I owned the 88 the way that, people are happy for me. It's been a long time coming. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of stock car racing. I take a lot of stuff for it, for being a huge stock car fan, but it was just good to be at the Mecca and be surrounded by, Junior Nation, number 3, and have my brother there. I couldn't ask for more. And yes, we'll be back in Daytona in 2015 for sure.
How's the girls down there in Daytona Beach?
You got to
man.
see a couple of the photos he had.
Wow.
Who's that girl from Maryland that you met?
Cumberland, Maryland. I was fortunate enough to meet Miss Sprint Cup, and she was
Miss
a real,
Sprint Cup.
yeah.
Oh, really? What is that their first name?
No, Miss.
Well, we got
Sprint is a
Mr.
middleman.
Aaron Donald, Mr. Aaron Donald's dad. So I mean, she's Miss Sprint Cup. She's Miss
Okay.
Sprint Cup.
That's why he doesn't know his name. There's nicknames for everybody. I have friends I didn't know what their name
Hey,
was.
if we
till-
could take 30 seconds real quick and say hi to my cousin Joyce and Gladys
You
too.
have
They're
to.
huge fans of the show down there in Florida. They support
Pittsburgh
us.
Sports Line.
to the fullest,
Shouts
and
out
they-
to Joyce
They say hi to everybody
Hey,
up here and to all
Nothing
you
but
guys.
love from here in
and
Pittsburgh.
all the Brenner relatives there. We welcome you up anytime you want to come up to
July
Six Sports
July
Bar.
4th weekend. All the folks from down in Florida.
Bring
are
some
coming up.
moonshine back with you.
Well, no,
Moonshine
just
at the
come up.
house.
Just come up. You don't even drink. Smoking Jim's not even a drinker, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Hey.
Except he will be hanging around West Virginia with Bradley now.
Also,
Yes,
give
sir.
a shout out real quick to Showcase Barbecue in Homewood on Dallas Avenue. My boy Drew holding down that barbecue, man. I can't wait to come see you tomorrow. I'm hungry, man.
Well, why didn't you bring some of that back here?
I'll bring some through.
All right, maybe next time. Hey, we're going to have to wrap up the show. We're running out of time here. We're down to the last 30 seconds. I appreciate you watching the show. We got a little long-winded on some subjects, but I hope you enjoyed it. Zach, it was a great report. I appreciate it. Chip, thanks for everything you put out. Smoking Jim, ever since you had that hospital visit, I know I said it last night, but you've been on fire with all the subjects you bring up here. So keep up the great work. Chip, what do you got? One more?
Penguins, Blackhawks, Saturday, Soldier Field.
Hey, check out that mask
Outside.
for Flurry, too.
Go Pens. Thanks for watching the show.